Hello. Today I'm going to show you how to quite easily, really, access your Google Analytics data in R through the Google Analytics Reporting API. So, if you are a digital marketer and you use Google Analytics and you're planning on using R, it's really important that you have an efficient way to work with the data that you have in Google Analytics. Now, of course, you could go into the Google Analytics user interface and export something from into Excel and then upload it, but that would take a lot longer, and you wouldn't have the flexibility that you have using the Google Analytics API. It's really very straightforward and simple. And in this video, I'm just going to get you up and running, and later on, we can, in subsequent videos, we can talk about metrics and dimensions and how to kind of shape these different functions and packages to get what you want, and maybe take a look at some correlation analysis and some different graphs we can work within. But first, we'll just show you how to get up and running. Now, the the package that I use most often is Google Analytics R. There's actually a number of them out there. There's R Google Analytics and GAR. There's a couple different ones. I'm not sure what all the differences are between the different packages, but this one works for me, so I've been using it. So the first thing you'll have to do is, and you can see here that I've outlined some of what we're going to be doing, but you want to install Google Analytics R, and then even if you do have it already installed, you're going to have to activate it using library. So you can do that by going here and just clicking on it, or you can type this in. And this is just a script. I'm kind of just more or less, I have some notes here for myself, but it's a good idea to start using scripts. So, for example, if you didn't want to, if this was kind of what you typed into R Studio in order to connect to your Google Analytics data, you don't want to have to remember this and type it all over every time you start a new session and you want to start working in your Google Analytics data. So what you can do is just write a script and save it, and then anytime you're ready to work in Google Analytics R, just open up that script and click run, and it'll just run through all of this instantly. And it's kind of a way to be efficient and get a repetitive task out of R. So once you have the Google Analytics package activated, um, there's this really great package called GA underscore auth. And so all you have to do, you don't have to type anything into these parentheses. You just simply click GA underscore auth and then hit enter. And I've already done this, but what it'll basically do is it'll automatically send you to, and you have to have your Google Analytics already open in your browser, so make sure you do that. But once you do that, it'll automatically bring you to a pop-up window that asks you if you want to authorize R or R Studio basically to access your Google Analytics data. And so just click yes, and then you'll be good to go. So that kind of verifies that you're the owner of the data, and it's okay that you're accessing it. And then from there, if you have a Google Analytics instance, you might have a lot of different accounts, especially if you're an agency and maybe you have access to some of your client accounts. So if you just type in this, my accounts, and this is what's important: Google Analytics underscore account list. And when you type that in, and you can call this whatever you want. We're just saving it as something. We're just going to save it as something called my accounts, but this could be anything. But once you type this in, and then you type in after that view accounts, then what it's going to do is it's going to give you a table up here, and I'm not going to click on it because it has my account list in it, and I just don't want to show my IDs and all of that. But if you type that in, then it's going to show you a list, and then you are able to choose which one you want to work with and grab that view ID. And the view ID is what's going to be important in this next step. So for the next step, what we want to do is type in, and some people do maybe save it as my underscore ID. It can be anything you want, really. I tend to save it as GA underscore ID, but this should just be maybe like an 8-digit number, somewhere around there, and it's going to be whatever your view profile ID is in this list. And so just type that in here, just so we have it saved as something that we can reference later. So we don't want to have to type that number in every time we need it, because it's a lot harder to remember. So we're just going to call it something, which is GA underscore ID. Okay, and I've done that. So the next step is to, and this isn't actually necessary, but what you might want to do to save yourself some time is just create a start date and an end date. And so here you can see I've created a start date, and these are dynamic, right? So we created a start date of 60 days ago, and if I type this in tomorrow, the date range is going to be different. So that's why I say it's dynamic. I could, if I wanted to, type in 2017-01-01 for January 1st, 2000, and that'd be static. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. But if you know you're going to be working in a certain time range and you want to keep that kind of just saved so that you don't have to continually type in the date range that you want to use, that'd be a good thing to set. So for now, I just have 60 days ago and yesterday. But really set this for whatever you want, or you don't really necessarily need to set it at all. You can set it later if you want to. Okay, so I've done that as well. And then the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to create what's called a data frame. It's really just a table. It's a table that we can work with in R, and we can do anything we want with that table. But that's what we're doing the whole time here is we first connected to the Google Analytics API, and then we wanted to make sure that we were referencing the correct profile that we wanted to use, and then we kind of set some start and end dates or a range that we wanted to work with. And now we want to say, okay, what do I want to pull out of Google Analytics? It's going to be this time frame and these columns and these rows. So that's what we're doing here. In this instance, I just created one called DF Sessions. You can just copy and paste that if you'd like, and you can see it's downloaded 60 rows. But really, we're just using Google Analytics 4 API, and the first argument that we want to make in here is which GAID, which profile we want to use. So we want all this data, but which profile should we use? Well, it's going to be this one that we saved earlier. Date range. I'm just using the predefined dates that I used, but if you didn't set these, you could write something in here. And then metrics, just for the sake of this example, we're going to use sessions and date, but you can type in anything you want. If you're not familiar with metrics and sessions or dimensions, it's definitely worth learning. If you're a digital marketer, it's very critical. It gives you an idea of more or less what's a dimension or what's a column and what's a row when you're returning data. And there's specific names that each metric and dimension in GA has, so that when you call it, Google Analytics knows what you're talking about and returns the right data. Okay, so let's just type in this thing that we created, which is really just this table called DF Sessions, and you can see it returns a table. So in this one just doesn't happen to have any data because it's all kind of zero just because of the profile that I chose to use in this example, but you most likely have a lot more data than that. But you can see, the dimension is how we break things down into rows, and the metrics is usually just the columns. So sessions is a column, the dimension is broken down by date. And so we have every date within the last 60 days all the way to yesterday. Now, there's a lot we can do from here. I'm not going to get into that now. We could, if we pulled in more data, like we also typed in like conversions, something like that. There's a lot we can do with a correlation analysis, or we can create all kinds of graphs, and we can do some really cool things that you can't very easily do in the user interface. The user interface for Google is great, but it is limited. So you just have a lot more flexibility here to kind of do some really fun things. And you can also tie in different data sources, things like that. There's actually a Google Search Console. There's something similar, a package for Google Search Console, which maybe I'll talk about soon in another video, which you can access that data as well. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.